We start in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has publicly rejected calls from the United States to scale back its offensive in Gaza and for post-war Palestinian statehood. In a nationally televised address, Netanyahu said Israel would not stop its war in the territory until Hamas, which is considered a terrorist group by Israel and the US, was destroyed.
In any arrangement, whether there is an accord or not, the Israeli state must have security control over all the territory west of the Jordan River. It's a necessary condition. But that clashes with the principle of Palestinian sovereignty. So what can I say? I've told our American friends this truth. I've also stopped the attempt to impose a reality on us that would harm Israel's security. An Israeli Prime Minister should be able to say no, even to our best friends. No when necessary, yes when possible.
Let's get more now from DW correspondent Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. Good morning, Tanya. Can you tell us a bit more about Netanyahu's remarks?
Well, actually, it's not the first time that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects the idea of a Palestinian state. We've been hearing him saying that before, but of course this comes now after the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in the region just last week, talking about that there needs to be a pathway to a Palestinian state. He also made remarks at the World Economic Forum. There was on Wednesday in this regard that Israel cannot achieve genuine security without that pathway to a Palestinian state. I think on the one hand, the Israeli Prime Minister wants to assert that it's Israel who sets the tone, which sets the tone for what will happen in Gaza after the war ends. But also he's addressing, of course, his domestic audience here. There is not much talk about, a peace with Palestinians or a two-state solution at the moment. The country is very much focused on releasing more hostages that are remaining in Gaza. There's a lot of pressure on the government from the Israeli public. And there's not so much talk about a Palestinian state in that regard, rather more questions about how this war will end and whether the goal that the government has set to remove Hamas from power will actually be achieved.
But this, however, puts the Prime Minister again at odds with the United States, which has also called for Israel to scale back its offensive in Gaza.
Well, absolutely. There are several issues where both countries, very close allies, differ. One of them is, of course, the course of the war. There have been repeated calls by the United States to scale down the war in Gaza in light of the high death toll among the civilian population in Gaza, but also to let in more aid. But also, when it comes to post-war scenarios, there's been a lot of pressure on the Israeli government to actually define what a post-war Gaza will look like, and one of them is this goal of a pathway to a Palestinian state. As Antony Blinken has said it also in the region. He was here last week talking to a lot of leaders also in the region, saying that also the Arab countries, mainly he visited also Saudi Arabia, which a country Israel has no diplomatic relations with, but of course saying that Arab countries would like to help with a reconstruction of Gaza, but also would like to see a pathway to a Palestinian state to possibly reintegrate Israel in the region.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but thanks so much for joining us today. Tanya Kramer from Jerusalem.